My name is Brennan Dunn. I'm going to be talking about website personalization today. So quick show of hands, I just want to get a feel for I know we did intros and I have an idea of what everyone's job titles are. But how many of you either generate leads reliably online or sell product, whether digital or physical, through your website? Cool. All right, so a good amount. I know a lot of us do in person, like coaching or consulting or whatever else, but I'm willing to bet our websites are pretty integral into what we do or our clients do. So I'm going to be talking about why one size fits all is problematic both for your own sales and for your customers. So does anyone know Kathy Sierra? Has anyone heard of her or read her book? She's a great book called Badass that I'd highly recommend you read. It's basically if you care at all about user experience or usability, Kathy's book Badass is probably the best, most customer-centric book that I've read on the subject. But why I brought her up here is about 10 years ago, she was writing a blog post about a consulting project that her and her team were working on. So they were working for a big national car company. And this car company was putting kiosks in showrooms. So you go into the showroom, here's a kiosk that would help you choose your car. And you'd walk up to the kiosk and it would first ask you a few questions. The first question was, what is it you care most about in a car? Do you care about reliability? Do you care about safety? Do you care about resale value? Do you care about how it performs? And what they would do is you would choose, say, safety, and then every subsequent question after that would be based on safety. So you choose safety, and then follow-up questions would have a baby in a car seat and stuff like that. And it would say things like, considering that you care about safety, how would blah 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 matter to you? Yes, does blah 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 matter to you? Yes or no? And what she found out, or what she kind of confirmed in this kind of pseudo case study with a big car retailer, was that when it comes to features or even benefits, one size does not fit all. It's critical to find ways to connect what you do or have to what each individual finds personally meaningful. So you hear a lot about sell the benefit, don't sell the features, things like that. But what a lot of people miss is that not everyone cares about the same benefits. If I'm buying a car, I might buy a car for a different reason than you might buy a car. So I'm going to be talking I'm going to be talking today about personalization. So personalization, if you've got your ear to the ground and you're reading a lot of articles that are hitting the web and such, it's all the rage. You see a lot of these trend blog posts that are talking about how 4 trends you need to focus on, and personalization is inevitably one of those. My issue with this is that all of these articles are very high level, meaning they're not actually telling you what to do. They're basically saying Amazon does it, so you should too. And then, well, yeah, Bezos has billions of dollars to throw at engineering teams. Do you have billions of dollars? Probably not. So I'm going to be talking about practical ways that all of us can start leveraging website personalization in our own businesses. So why do I think it's so important? Well, if any of us, we're all at an event for marketers, right? So if I'm speaking to you, I'm going to speak to you as a marketer. If I speak to the waiter over there, I'm not going to talk to them using the same language that I would use to you. We all do this. We all go to events. We go to networking mixers. We go to conferences. We write. We talk to our parents. We talk to our friends, and we tailor what it is. The question, what do you do for a living? What I tell you is going to be different than what I tell my mom, right? And we all do this. We all naturally change the way we position the answer to questions, what it is we offer, and so on, based on who we're speaking to. The problem is all of us pretty much probably have a static website, meaning you go to your homepage, it says the same thing regardless of who's looking at it, how aware they are of what you do, and so on. So again, personalization is one of these hot topics, but I'm going to be presenting today 5 different strategies that we've sourced from our own internal data of what people are actually doing with personalization. Most importantly, what net effect has this had on conversions and sales. So as I was just saying, there's a lot of uncertainty about okay, cool. So yeah, personalize and segment our audience and personalize content to them. Well, how do you actually start? That's a big question that we hear a lot. There's very few concrete how-tos out there, and it's really not that easy. The old way of telling people how to implement it was hire an engineer, which marketers don't like hearing that as an answer. So quick backstory. I don't know why it doesn't. There we go. Quick backstory of myself. You may remember me back. I used to have an agency here locally called We Are Titans. We were a software development shop, and I got sick of client work, so I started a software company called PlanScope in 2011, so shuttered the agency to focus on this. Built that, sold that in 2016, and in the process of building and growing that, I started a website called Double Your Freelancing, which is really just an online training site. We sell courses and so on to people who are creative but have no clue how to pitch and sell and price and all that stuff. So that community has grown to about 50,000 monthly readers, or I should say people on our newsletter. So 50,000 people are on our newsletter, and we've had over 10,000 people pay us money. And that's all bootstrapped. That's all pretty much done at scale. Our customers are all over the world. And last year, I started a new software company because I swore I'm not going to do another software company when I sold PlanScope. I told myself I'm done with software. And then opportunity came knocking, and I started this. We raised some funding, and we started scaling up the team last year. A friend of mine, Samuel Hulick, he's big in the UX world. He has a website called useronboard.com. And what he does is he tears down how different web apps onboard people. So how does Mint.com get new users set up? What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? And so on. So he tweeted about a few months back saying the more he researches user experience and UX personalization, the more he's having a user onboarding in 2013 vibe all over again. So 5 years ago, user onboarding was all the rage. We were talking about how do you deliver great first-run experiences to your customers. So somebody's signing up for a trial of your software, you want to make sure that you hit it out of the park. That was really big 5 years ago. Companies like Basecamp were writing books about here's how to present a blank slate instead of an empty dashboard. How do you present stuff when there's no information in somebody's account? So Samuel's the king of that, and he was tweeting about personalization, and Joshua replied saying, where should someone start to look if they want to find out more info about personalization? His reply was a Google search on how do you personalize. It's not a good thing. So again, my job as CEO of RightMessage and as we build this company is to help people better understand how can they get started with personalization right now with minimal impact or minimal effort with maximum impact. Any of you do this? So any of you send email to people at scale, so through like an email marketing app? You've probably seen or you've probably done this or been on the receiving end of like a hello first name. This isn't this is mail merging. This is not personalization. Yeah, it's okay, sure, it's personalized, but what this is the age-old thing that Microsoft Word has done forever, which is basically just being able to mail merge. So taking like CSV or structured data and putting it into a transactional, in this case, a transactional email. I'm not going to be talking about this. I'll talk a bit about dynamic content injection, which is what this is, but that's not the theme. If you're thinking, okay, Brennan's going to talk a lot about like how to do Mad Libs online, that's not what we're going to be talking about here. So first strategy is, and again, I'm covering 5 different strategies that you can start using right away. Where did someone come from, and what does that tell us about them? So I know Eric and his team were on a summit recently called Uppercase something, or is Eric? I don't know. Yeah. Uppercase. Anyway, it's one of these online conferences, and what they did is their model is to find people, presumably the speakers, and you get like 20 speakers, and you say to each of them, hey, will you email your customers, your audience, your list, and get them to attend? And if they attend and they buy the thing that we promote on the back end, we'll give you a rev share. So that's pretty much, if you've ever seen these online summits, that's their business model. So a friend of mine, Tom Works, was running one called the 100K Launch School. I was invited to speak. He asked me, hey, will you email your list? It's a nice revenue opportunity, so I said yes. And what a lot of us do who do that is we'll go and we'll get some swipe copy. So we all probably know what swipe copy is. It's just like, copy that or bullet points that you can give to partners, and then they will promote this to their customer base or their audience. So he gave me some bullet points, and then I wrote an email. This is a copy of it to my list. And my list is freelancers. My list is independent consultants. So the 100K Launch School probably didn't appeal directly to them because they're not selling software. They're not selling products online. They're selling services. So what I did is I framed the product, the event, in a way that made sense to my audience. So hey, you're freelancing now. Wouldn't it be great to wake up and make money from internet strangers who found your website, plugged in their credit card, and bought from you. That's such an eye-opening experience that a lot of freelancers really, really want. So I send an email to my list promoting this event that way. Now, typically what happens here, whether you're dealing with affiliates or partners or referral sources or whatever else, is you'll have this kind of like personalized advertisement, which is what this is, and then they all go to the same registration page, the same landing page. And typically, it would be, this is an example of it personalized, but it would be something like this, where it's like, join for free the 100K launch school, reserve my spot. And what Tom did is he said, look, Brennan's audience is freelancers. When his audience comes to my registration page, I'm going to say, grow your freelancing business with new streams of income from products. So we're going to change the headline to reflect who the audience is. What does that do? That increases engagement. That makes the person more willing to keep scrolling down the page, which makes them more willing to actually opt in. Another partner, any of you listen to Entrepreneur on Fire or know John Lee Dumas? So he promoted this event too. His audience is more passive income types. So for them, they come to that same registration page and they're seeing generate a year's worth of profit in a single month, learn how inside. Steve Dimmick, he helps people who want to become best-selling authors. So he helps people with self-publishing. When he promoted the same event to his audience, he said, attention authors, learn how to turn your book into a six-figure revenue stream. So all Tom did, all the organizer of this conference did, was say, depending on where people are coming from, we're just going to change the headline. And I've seen people do a little more where you change out testimonials. Maybe you change the featured talk to be something a little more appropriate to the audience viewing. But as just kind of like to keep things engaging, what impact do you think this had in registration? So it's a free conference. It just takes an email address. So there's pretty low friction in getting enrolled. But if you were to take a guess, what lift do you think that this? 10%? 300%? 44.6%. So somewhere in between. But what I really kind of focus on here, the sample size here is about 3,000. So it's significant. It's statistically significant. All they did was change a single headline depending on who was sending traffic. So think about this. Are you running ads? What are your ads saying? Who are they targeting? Are you sending all of your ads to the same page? Think about what's happening here. Look at that lift and think about why that's happening. It makes sense. If a freelancer is reading a thing, an email saying, here's how you can escape freelancing, you click through and then there's a disconnect. The landing page is all about launching your next product at 100K and you're like, I don't have a product. You could see why this makes sense, right? So another one, ConvertKit. This is my friend Nathan's company. And Pat Flynn is his #1 affiliate source, right? So Pat Flynn, anyone know Pat Flynn, Smart Passive Income? So he promotes the hell out of ConvertKit. And what he does is instead of sending his traffic from his site to this, which is ConvertKit's homepage, he sends them to this. So if you're reading Smart Passive Income, you follow a guy named Pat Flynn, that's what he looks like. You're into the idea of making passive income online. If you clicked over to this service that Pat recommended, which one of these do you think is going to appeal a little more to you? Are you going to like to see that person you trust, that guy who you read all of his emails and so on? Or are you going to get to this kind of generic homepage? And I mean, which one do you think has a better impact in conversions? Now, I asked Nathan, I asked him what the performance is on this page. It's triple-digit increase in terms of basically trials that come from Pat's site. But it makes sense why. Again, psychologically, this makes sense. If you are reading Pat Flynn's site, you click over, here's a testimonial front and center from Pat Flynn saying this is the most badass email marketing software ever. The people coming from a channel, they trust Pat, they know Pat. Another example, anyone know Capterra or like these online review sites? So Capterra is an online review site that lists different software products. And what they do is, they have a lot of reviews, and it's kind of, it's not exactly neutral, I'll put it that way. But they send a lot of traffic to this online scheduling software called Bookify. And all they did is they said if Capterra.com, on the review for our software on Capterra.com, they have a link that goes to check, find out more about the software. If somebody clicks that link and comes to our site, we want to change the headline, which defaults to something like online scheduling software. We want to make it say Capterra's highest rated scheduling software. What do you think the impact was on that? It's closer to what you said over there, 289% more people who came from Capterra ended up clicking the sign, or basically signing up. And if you look at the actual numbers, the control is 2.7%. So without the Capterra specific headline, 2.7% of people from Capterra ended up signing up. With that kind of branded headline, you're looking at a closer to 8% of people coming from that channel converting, and it makes sense why. If you trust a site called Capterra, you read a review that they put out, and then there's kind of that continuity on the page that they redirect you to. It makes sense why these numbers are here. This isn't like some isolated whatever. This is, when it comes to this tactic, this referral-based tactic, we're seeing low three figures to 180%-ish averages, depending on the channel. Obviously, traffic quality is a big deal. What you're offering, if they're selling like a $5,000 thing, and that's what it takes to sign up, you're going to, no matter how good your copy is, there's going to be a lot of friction, right? But in general, for something like a soft conversion, like increased engagement or starting a sign-up process, you're typically looking at a pretty sizable lift. And again, all they're doing is they're saying, look, if this influencer, this brand, this review site, say Consumer Reports sends you traffic, not that any of us do consumer stuff, but let's say they did, you put like a pull quote from that review front and center on the landing page, you're going to see an immediate effect there because you're continuing the conversation that they just came from, right? So the second strategy I want to cover is dynamic calls to action, or tapping into what people are searching for. So a lot of people, when they go to Google, they type in, how do I onboard my new consulting clients or freelancing clients? They get this article. And what you see on this is what's called a content upgrade. So a content upgrade, if you're not familiar, is a lead magnet specific to a blog post. So the idea would be, typically we have like a newsletter opt-in or some like ebook thing that we have all over our site. Well, if you can have a lead magnet that's specific to the article they're reading. So if they're reading an article on onboarding, give them a checklist on onboarding. These typically convert 10 to 20% of people reading this article into an email address, which is much better than a stupid newsletter opt-in that gets 2%. So these work really well, right? These kind of very content-specific lead magnets. But unfortunately, it's kind of annoying to need to create a whole downloadable PDF or checklist or something for each piece of content on your website. So there's a middle ground, and that's what I want to talk about, which is having something called a dynamic call to action. So this is an article on my site, The Ultimate Guide to Starting a Freelancing Business. It ranks number one if you Google, how do I start freelancing? We're usually in the top, either top position, depending on what you type in, or we get a lot of traffic from this article. And what I've done is I've made it so if somebody comes to this article first from Google, are they looking to scale an agency? Are they looking to sell their company? No, they're looking to get started, right? So what I'm doing is I'm behaviorally segmenting them as a beginner. And I look at things like, are they coming from a web design blog that linked to an article of mine? If they are, then they're probably a web designer. And then if they come to this article, or they're binging articles on, say, proposal writing, if they're reading a lot of articles on proposal writing, what does that tell me? That probably tells me they have an issue or problem with proposals. So what can I do? I can create something called a dynamic call to action, where what we can do is we can say, the generic might be, freelancers, learn how to charge what you're worth. That's what if you came to an article, let's say directly, incognito mode, we have no information about you, you might see a generic email opt-in, right? A generic lead magnet. But what I'm doing is I'm saying if they either self-survey or come from a design blog, I'm going to assume they're a designer. And then if they are reading, most of the articles they're reading on my site are about proposals or in the proposals category, I'm going to change the normal lead magnet to just say designers, find out how to close proposals. Go to the homepage. Instead of 25,000 plus freelancers, we're going to say 25,000 plus designers. We're going to make it so it's basically like a niche opt-in, a niche lead magnet specific to them. And the effect has been a 252% increase in overall signups. Now, I mentioned content upgrades get about a 10 to 20% opt-in rate, which is significantly better than what I'm getting here, which is 5.3%. However, this is kind of in between the usual generic lead magnet and a specific content upgrade. The whole thing is relevancy. If I'm reading an article on onboarding, there's a lead magnet about onboarding checklist stuff, that's super relevant to me, I'm gonna opt in. If I'm reading an article about onboarding and here you're giving me a marketing ebook thing that has nothing to do with what I'm reading, so your opt-in rate's gonna be significantly lower. But you can kind of meet in the middle and say, what if we could reposition, what if we could rebrand this generic site-wide lead magnet on the fly to be specific to what this person we think cares about based on behavior, based on where they came from, based on the ad they clicked on, and so on. So the third strategy I want to cover is who does PPC anything, like paid ads, Facebook, Google? Cool. All right, so we all know that the best performing ads are going to go to a unique one-off landing page. So if the ad says XYZ and it targets this demographic, if that landing page that they click through to, the headline says XYZ, and say there's social proof from somebody in the demographic that ad was targeting, that's going to do well. You look at companies like You Need a Budget, they run targeted ads for budgeting for military families, budgeting for real estate agents, budgeting for bankers, budgeting for this, budgeting for that. It's the same damn webinar that they get for everyone, except the landing page changes depending on the segmentation, the targeting of that ad. So as a hypothetical, I want to show you an example of what I mean by this. So these aren't real ads, but let's say teamwork.com. Teamwork.com sells project management software. Sorry. Avoid the drinks. Let's say they're running ads on Facebook, and the ad on the left is targeting agency owners. The ad on the right is targeting software as a service startups. So this could be done by interest targeting or something like that. Traditionally, they would probably lead to the same like webinar opt-in page or the same, download this white paper landing page. But what if you could actually go and we talk a lot about how these are two different ads targeting two different types of people. But here's an ad that looks almost identical. They're both targeting startup companies. But notice one of them says building the next big app ? And the other is just startup founder. One's targeting the need of I want to build the next big thing. And the other is just targeting, if you're a founder, whatever. And the people clicking on these ads are really self-segmenting. If an ad says this and it targets startups, well, if you can carry that over to the landing page, you're going to see a really sizable increase in performance. But who wants to do this? Who wants to have 100 cloned lead pages that are all pretty much identical except for a minor tweak to a headline? That's a pain in the ass. So what can you do with personalization is what you can do is you can make it so you're passing over targeting and copy data in your URL as query string parameters onto a single landing page that modifies itself in real time. So this is an example of one of our customers. They do Excel consulting, Excel trading. And what they've done is they have 24 different variations to this single landing page. And they've been running paid ads for the last 4 or 5 years, consistently spending mid 4 figures, sometimes 5 figures a month on Google AdWords. And what they've done is they've just made it so the headline and the benefits that are focused on no outsourcing, no bug guarantee, and so on, change depending on the targeting and what the ad somebody clicked on said. So if the ad says no bug guarantee, whatever, make the headline continue that, right? Like make the headline prominently say no bug guarantee or something. And the impact they've had is 108% more consultations. And their lead value is pretty high. But basically, by lifting the number of people, so 20% of people from paid traffic used to convert. And this is 20% over 4 years. So it's constant. This isn't a one-off. Overnight, and since doing this, they've bumped that up to the mid-40s. So basically, I mean, if you really want to boil it down, they're getting the same amount of leads for half the cost, which any number of screwing around with your Google AdWords account isn't going to give you that effect overnight and that immediately. So again, it makes sense why this works, right? It's the same thing we would do in person. If somebody called me and say, hey, Brennan, I'm a marketer, I live in Norfolk. I mean, back when I was selling consulting gigs, this is what I did. If somebody is in this industry and they know this client of mine and they behave in a certain way, I'm going to completely leverage that and give examples and tell them, use words. If they're more technical, I'm going to be more technical with them. If they're less technical, I'm going to speak more startup-y or something like that, right? So again, we all do this, but this is just we're finally at the point where we can start doing this at scale in a way that scales really infinitely. Intercom, which I'm sure a lot of you know, or you've heard their ding whenever going on somebody's website. They're kind of like a little chat widget type thing and a bunch of other stuff. But what they did is they actually hired a sales engineer to do exactly what I just covered, where they hired a sales engineer to tailor the homepage copy of a landing page based on the original search query. They would change the imagery of the product and the features they promote based on the audience that was clicking on that ad. So a marketer, a CMO, is going to have different things they care about than a CTO. I mean, I'm sure Eric and Kevin have different kind of concerns that they might have when looking at like new software to use for help desk management or something like that. So this is common sense stuff, but Intercom, and talking with Des over there, they got a 300% lift in signups from ad traffic just by doing this. Now, granted, they hired a sales engineer. I'm not recommending you do that. There's easier ways. But for them, it was worth paying the $150K salary to a guy in San Francisco to build this custom for them, considering the ROI from, the permanent ROI they're now getting from this campaign. The fourth strategy I want to cover is to simply ask people what it is they want from you. And so we did a survey of basically our entire audience for Right Message. That's about 5,000 people. And we asked them, how do you currently segment your audience? So show of hands, who here segments their, who here has some sort of like, say, whether in their CRM or an email marketing app, a list or something? How do you guys currently segment that audience? By segment, I mean things like demographics, firmographics, what they've bought, what they haven't bought, what they've attended, what they haven't attended, what they want from you, and so on. Do you guys actively do a lot of that? Yeah, good. Okay, good. Because 75% of the people we surveyed don't. Most people segment off of customer or client or non-customer, non-client. But beyond that, they don't do much. So there's a few different things that we can use to progressively profile our contacts, our leads. One of which is a tool called Clearbit. So Clearbit, if you haven't used it before, you can basically give them an email address and they'll give you back information about the industry they work in, the company they're at, how big their company is, social, networking profiles like their Twitter profile, LinkedIn profile. Yeah. What? Oh shit. Okay. I'll go fast. So you can do a lot of cool stuff. One thing that we're starting to see working really well is on-site surveying, where you can ask people specifically, like, what kind of work do you do, what do you need from us, and so on. And I'm doing that on my own site here. So this is WR Freelancing. I'm asking people things like, are you a designer, a marketer, a writer, and so on. They say they click designer. Then they go into my email sequences. I'm using trigger links to continue to segment them. So, hey, why did you join this free email course? I need help this way. I need help that way. I need help in this way. And I use this data to make it so when they start going through the rest of my site, they're looking at product pages. They're looking at just different things on my site. If they tell me they're a designer, they're going to see language about designers. They're going to get a niche site that's generated on the fly that's specific to them. If they're a design agency, you're going to see in-depth training for the design agency owner who didn't major in business. So what I'm doing is I'm basically giving all the benefits of niching, but without actually physically needing to have a niche website or different niche websites. And I'm able to get also high-level data about what people do, what people want from me, how can I best help them? Do they need help with coaching? Do they want community? I'm able to get this high-level data, but I'm able to associate that data with individual records in my CRM, which is hugely valuable. So I've done this for one of my sales pages here. The impact, 66% more sales from an email course funnel that leads people to this, because I collect 9 different data points about who they are, what they want, what they're struggling with right now, and then I throw that all back at their face. They tell me they're a designer, they're an agency, and they're struggling with proposals, and the reason they joined this course was because they want to start pricing on value. Guess what? They're going to get a sales page for that product that is specific to that. They're going to see social proof, testimonials from other designers. It's going to use agency instead of the word freelancer. And there's 1,200 possible variations of that sales page, which again, think about that. Like, who here wants to clone a product page 1,200 times and figure out how do you get the right people to that? But this stuff works because, again, it mirrors what already happens in conversation. So I collected a lot of data. This is just a sampling of different data that I collect about people in my database. So what they're interested in, what they want, and so on. Last one I would want to talk about is tell you what to do next. So a big thing is most websites optimize for anonymous traffic. You send somebody who's been a loyal customer of yours back to your latest blog post, they're getting hit with pop-ups, email opt-ins, exit things, slide-ups, all this crap that is really pointless. If you say you just emailed somebody, hey, here's our newest blog post, check it out on our blog, you go to the blog and now there's a giant pop-up asking for your email address when they just emailed you a second ago. That's stupid, right? So what a lot of people are doing with personalization is changing it so the offer, the call to action, reflects where they're in the buying cycle. If they're anonymous, get them on our list. If they're on our list, get them to buy the entry-level product, get them to book a call, get them to join a webinar. If they've done that, get them to do the next step, and so on. This is working exceptionally well. And I'm going to skip quickly because I'm running out low on time. But if you do any sort of content marketing, you have a blog, and you ask for people to give them, opt into something on your blog, please, please, please make it so if they're already on your list, they're already a customer or lead, don't ask them that stuff. Give them to go further down the funnel. But 99% of blogs online, unfortunately, do this because they optimize for anonymous visitors. They don't optimize for people further down the funnel. So here's a case study, somebody who stripped out navigation, depending on where they are in the buying cycle, in this case anonymously. They were able to get 55% more people down the funnel when eliminating distracting calls to action. So I'm going to skip through this stuff. One thing I want to close on is it's not all or nothing. I know probably this sounds overwhelming. There's a lot of things you could be doing that you're not doing now. When I started out, it was literally just if you're anonymous, do this. If you're a subscriber, do that. And I added more complexity over time. Start small. One minor change is often enough to see a pretty big sizable bent or dent. So who's sending you a lot of traffic? How do you greet that traffic differently from here on out? That's a permanent change. And then you can stack other things on top of that to increase overall your performance for your site. Small tweaks, blah, blah, blah. So I want to close with this. If you want to see personalization in action, if you go to rightmessage.com/anon, A-N-O-N, we have special pricing if you're interested in using our software to help you do this. No coding required, all point and click, integrates directly with your CRM or your email marketing app. So your site and your contacts database will be in full synchronization with just a few clicks. We're also hiring. So if you know, we need a head of sales. We have 10 people. I'm going to pitch you guys because you guys are local. We want to build a sales team locally. We can't handle the amount of leads we're getting. We're getting companies like Teachable, Lead Pages, and others as customers of ours. Growing like crazy. Again, there's 10 of us. I'm trying to run this thing while it's just blowing up left and right. And I'm looking to find somebody here locally who can help. So if you know anyone, please talk to me. But thank you guys.